For 16 years, we've been building a site that's been called innovative, insightful, and informative. Now there's a new name for it. We're now NBCnews.com.
It's hard to tell from this video, but the prime suspect in Michelle Lay's disappearance, Giselle Esteban, is tiny, barely 5'2". And at the time she was questioned by police, she was 3 months pregnant with her second child, which made detectives wonder.
Is there somebody else involved with her?
It was a question often repeated at the Alameda County DA's office.
We have an able-bodied young lady who disappears from a public place. So automatically our minds went to, was there more than one person involved?
And so, when Richie got a call from Giselle's ex-boyfriend, claiming to have found Michelle's iPhone, he was worried.
I was very concerned that had we missed something, is he the other part of this? Then it's, why is he telling us this? If he is the other part of this, why is he finding this and telling us about evidence?
And that was the key question. Why would Scott admit to having incriminating evidence? Was he trying to outsmart the cops by pretending to be helpful? To have found Michelle's iPhone when he had it all along? Or was he afraid somebody was trying to set him up? Which might have been the reason why Scott shared this document with detectives. This is a temporary restraining order against Giselle Esteban. In signed declarations, both Scott and his mother told how their family was awakened early one morning by Scott's car alarm. Scott went to investigate.
And while he's out front, he hears his mother screaming. He goes inside. Giselle is inside of his house. She's inside his room, tampering with his computer.
Sound familiar? It was the same thing Esteban was doing at the nursing school.
And when was this vis-a-vis the murder?
4 days before, on the Tuesday.
But there was something else. A piece of evidence you have to hear to believe. Scott told the detectives that 4 months before Michelle's disappearance, Giselle harangued and threatened him, verbal attacks so alarming, he recorded some on his iPhone, just in case something bad ever happened. This one in Scott's car, their small daughter sitting in the back seat listening. You listen closely. You're about to hear the real Giselle Esteban.
I asked you, can we just be honest about Michelle, because she's the one issue that I really, really am having a hard time dealing with.
That's not what you said at all.
Yes! Okay,
We
well
didn't
then
talk for
fine.
days.
Starting from now, we are going to be honest about Michelle. Do you understand me? Okay. Whether you sleep with her, whether you share food with her, whether you talk to her, you will be honest with me. Look at me! You will be honest with me regarding her. Otherwise, I will take your life and hers. Mom. And you can take that to the grave with you.
Why?
Why? Because you lied about her so many times, it's hard to believe that you didn't sleep with her and knock her out. You deserve to die for your lies, as does she, and you will. If you do it again, this is your last and final warning.
Why?
Do you understand me? It's your last and final warning. Just let her go.
Inspector Ritchie listened to Giselle's tone careen from aggrieved to furious to threatening all in less than a minute. This was far from the subdued woman he'd met back in May.
It was apparent that she was a violent person.
Did you ever have any concern about Scott's safety?
Yes. And we advise Scott that if it is Giselle, you have to be concerned for your safety as well.
And he might well be a target.
Yeah.
Esteban, it was clear in the recording, had become fixated on her old friend. Was convinced Michelle had somehow broken up her relationship with Scott. And yet, as Ritchie took pains to discover,
Michelle and Scott were nothing more than just friends. She had a boyfriend. Scott was just one of the many friends that she had. But the only person in this world that seemed to think that there was more to it was Giselle.
Prosecutor Butch Ford heard the audio too, and read the 1,500 pages of texts and emails Scott gave police.
For the better part of 6 years, she had an obsession with Michelle. Her text messages were filled with hatred towards Michelle at every step of the way. And then towards the last 4 months or so, they were filled with hatred towards Scott, wishing his death.
Wow.
They were just filled with hate towards the two of them, with blame towards Michelle for ruining her relationship and essentially breaking her family.
Do you think there's any truth to that at all?
Only from the standpoint that Giselle believed it was Michelle's fault. So if, in terms of responding to that question, the answer has to be yes, there's truth to it,
From
but
her
from
perspective.
Giselle's perspective, because she had to blame somebody.
This is a very disturbed individual.
Yes, there's no question about that. From my perspective, when we're dealing with, in particular, murderers, my position is that they're all sort of screwed up.
Yeah.
Because the normal person doesn't react that way. I mean, we have to believe that, right?
Right.
The normal person does not react that way. So at some level, anytime one person commits a murder, there's something that's loose in their head. There has to be.
Butch Ford may know more than most about the parameters of human nature. He helped raise 8 younger siblings while growing up in South Central L.A., worked his own way through law school, and now as a prosecutor seeks out sound advice from someone who has seen it all, his own grandmother.
I have dinner every Wednesday at my grandmother's house.
The first female African-American judge appointed in Alameda County.
I've never had a case that I haven't spoken to her about and run ideas by her in terms of trial presentation, closing arguments, things like that. I always run it by her.
But this case was special. Ford's grandmother was struck by the Lays' devotion to Michelle, by their determination to find answers. But it was clear there were still too many questions to take this case to court.
The theory was that Giselle had done something to bring about her demise. It just was a question of
what?
Yes, of what and how we prove it.
In fact, without a body, how could they prove there was a murder at all?
Coming up, in a strange twist of fate, the mother of Amber Dubois joins another search for Michelle, along with her new dog.
She jumps up on me and takes off again, and I followed her, and I noticed rope sticking out of the ground.
A dramatic discovery when Dateline continues.